If we're a special edition, what promos do we come with?
We come with Lucky
And what
Pied
boosters?
Piper and the Traveler and the Burning Abyss.
Okay.
In terms of what boosters we would come with as a special edition, okay, my phone now tells me that we're live, so we are definitely live now. So welcome, everybody.
I've just muted us on my other screen so that we don't get like the laggiest feedback imaginable.
Yep, that is a good idea. Are you familiar with that, the thing where if you're hearing back a recording of yourself, it's impossible to maintain a conversation?
Yes, but I think that's only for like a really marginal delay, whereas the delay that I'd be getting from the stream is like heavy big delay and wouldn't cause the same issue.
Yeah, for sure. But it's an interesting effect. But welcome everybody to TKB Live. We are going to, as usual, give people a few minutes to hop in, and I think we're also going to just pop a few announcements on Facebook just so people can find it.
Cool stuff. If you let me know when you've made the post, I can share it too.
Yeah. Also, welcome everybody who is here early. I see a lot of familiar faces, so thank you all for your continued support. We do appreciate it. And hopefully
Harry
this will be...
Moore. Yes, we are going to Euros. Not only are we going to Euros, we have the sickest new tops. I don't know if you saw the TKB Live from last week. Dan flashed one up, and I was very excited because we've had a selection of questionable team kit over the last many months, but now we have actual new Team Kuribrohs gear, and yeah, it's very exciting. I think possibly mistakenly, but one of the things that I'm most looking forward to about this event is new TKB gear.
I think I have this on screen. Can't actually see myself, but I'll see it in a minute. Yeah, I am super excited to see you guys playing in the new jerseys.
What's that, Dan? You're not playing yourself?
What could I possibly be doing at Euros? So myself and Marcello and Ollie and Rudy, the same team that we had for coverage for Utrecht, or no, for Dusseldorf. Yeah. We will all be back for commentary for the European Championship, so that's super exciting. Myself and Marcello were also there for UK Nationals, and then Marcello did Italian Nats, I did Dutch Nats, so one of those had a slightly more produced stream than the other. But yes, Tom's new jersey does have rose on it. It's still in its packaging, so that will be something that we will open up Thursday evening probably. I don't know when you're around.
Sorry to hear that you couldn't make it, Harry, but we'll try and do our best for you.
For sure. Well, I will talk good. That's the best promise I can make.
I'm not sure that's a promise you can make.
Wow. So I've had like 5 hours of sleep in the past 36 hours. I'm very
That's
good
more
at
than
talking
true.
right now. It is.
As more astute viewers might notice, this is critical testing time, so it's solitaire and stream, but yeah. I mean it's Euros, so no previews for the solitaire this time. I have a deck for that.
Is your solitaire playing solitaire?
My solitaire is currently playing excellent solitaire.
I mean specifically solitaire himself.
Solitaire in that I don't want to let my opponent play the game. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I want Shiranui solitaire.
Tough.
The true solitaire deck.
No, after falling into the big sort of post-nationals coma where I hated the game and life and everything. I've now awakened and realized that I should probably do a little bit of practice for this event, because I don't want to do badly again. That would be sad.
Yeah.
Lend me your energy.
Less than ideal. So, I think we have a good number. We have like 50 people, and I've just shared to
Nice.
Kuribrohs.
Thanks for
So,
showing up, guys.
thank you all for joining us. North American WCQ happened. I was on the right continent, very much in the wrong place.
You were pretending you played a different card game.
Yes. Actually, a video game, I'll have you know, sir.
I thought you were doing the demos for the cards.
So yeah, no, I was trading card game this event, but I do video game as well. But so I this weekend was at Pokemon North America WCQ, and I got this lovely jacket. The Pokemon staff kit is like the most lovely high production stuff that I have ever had. Like there's like this fully embroidered Pikachu on the arm and everything. Really gorgeous stuff. Um, but that was a very good event. And in fact, the person that won the North American Intercontinental Championship was the same French player that won it last year for TCG Masters, which is pretty crazy. Like back to back equivalent winning NAWCQ. Like that just
That's pretty
doesn't
mad.
really happen. But really good event. But I will make a video about it later in the week. Or maybe
When we
next
have
week.
less
I'm
important
really
things to
tired
think
and
about.
we need to test. But yeah, so NAWCQ happened. Obviously, the largest event in North America in terms of what it represents in the year. It has some.
It was also really big in terms of player numbers.
Mhm. Do we have the total number of players on hand?
I think it was about 2,000,
Yeah,
which is
that's.
really good for America. Like their events haven't been huge recently.
Mhm. But yeah, I mean, obviously, just massive event. Um, Slightly frustrated because I'm looking at the deck breakdown that they posted on the coverage blog, and they have it by the main part of the deck. So they have sorted by Salamangreat, then they have sorted by dangers, and then further down they have Orkest and Thunder Dragon as well. But there's
Yeah, it did make a
420.
lot of sense.
No, so there's 420 danger decks and 64 Thunder Dragon decks. But I think people always write Danger Thunder Dragon, whereas I think people are more likely to write Orcus Danger. But at the same time, it means it's very muddy numbers. But I think the like overall deck breakdown is where we'll start with. Then we can look at the top cut breakdown and also discuss the points playoff, because both of those are quite important for what we should be expecting for this weekend. So, I mean, the core thing to note here is Salamangreat is like not as represented as I would have expected at the event. It is the most represented, but it's only 20% of the field. And again, that's really showing how diverse this format has been in terms of what decks people are playing. People are saying 2,100 players. Thank you, Joshua. But like 2,100 players, that is a big event. To have 20% of the field as Salamangreat, I think that's relatively close to what we had been seeing at European events, right?
Yeah, like European events have been pretty huge lately, but the last Berlin Euros was only around 2,000. I think that might even be larger. So, and Berlin was the largest Euros we've had to date, though I would not be at all surprised if we see bigger this time around.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we broke. I mean, we had 3,000 for Dusseldorf. I would be very surprised Especially like if French players travel over, considering how big their nationals was this year. Like it could be a really big European event. But I think it's safe to assume that Salamangreat is going to take up somewhere between 20% and 30% of the field for day one of the European Championships.
Yep.
Um,
From a lot of the stuff that I've been listening to over the last few days, the suggestion has been that European metagame is less focused around what people would typically consider meta. It feels like European players are happier to play tier 2 decks.
mhm. I mean, what are we considering the tier 2 decks here? Things like Altergeist, True
Anything other
Draco.
than the 4 usual suspects.
Mm-hmm. The four usual being Solid, Striker, Thunder, and Orkest.
Yeah.
I think like Pendulum is just so close to being in the in that kind of top tier. I think I'm really unsure if it's actually lower than something like Thunder Dragon.
Thunder Dragon, I think, will see a massive spike. It's just been doing so well over in America, and all of the players that played it insist that it absolutely is the best deck. So a lot of the coverage has been reflecting that. I'm expecting a lot of Thunder Dragon to be really coming out of the woodwork for this event.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I think, we saw Thunder Dragon be kind of a very underrepresented deck during our national season. And we also saw, so it's been mentioned in the chat here, and I guess it's something we have to mention at some point. So the tech pick that I've seen come out of this weekend is the Utopia double in Sky Striker, right?
Yeah, that's a card that I've had on my radar for a long while now,
Yes.
but I didn't think for a moment that we were going to see it really sort of like showing its worth in the Sky Striker deck. Like there are all manner of like good decks that can support a rank 4 engine. I was expecting to see it from Salamangreat, but it really, really came out of nowhere, being relevant for Sky Strikers.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of covers one of the issues that the Striker deck had, which was in the current format, particularly in the mirror match, the Striker deck had no win condition against itself. And at least the Utopia double now means like, if you've got a hit in with a Hayate, you can always just OTK over any of the Striker links.
Yeah.
As long as you're able to just clear off the back row. So that's like pretty interesting, I think. I think if teams are sitting on techs, which I mean clearly we ourselves definitely are.
Don't let everyone know, Dan.
Don't let them know about our Space Bombo Turbo Rabbit deck.
If you have any text, please put them in the chat. We're desperate.
Thank you kindly. But so, I mean, that will obviously influence the deck building. Do you think that the Utopia is going to be staple in the Striker decks for this event?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm not sure that it necessarily should be, because it will be a lot less impactful now that people know to expect it. But I think it would be really weird to see something do so well and then not become the standard this weekend, particularly when the cards that you need to be able to do it are so easily accessible right now. Like,
sure,
everyone has Utopia because, I mean, it was a meme for the longest time that Utopia got another reprint.
yeah.
Utopia double and double or nothing are both in dual power, which is one of the most recent sets to print. So
yeah,
like, the vendors will make an absolute killing selling each of them for what, €2-3 ago, and they will sell 100 of each.
Sure. You know, this does give potential for us to get an ultimate rare Utopia print at last. I think that's the only one we're missing. That and like Ghost. So, you know. Yeah, like having played Striker at German Nats, I think most of the extra deck is pretty free. Like outside of your Striker links, your Striker links and like the Phoenix are like super nice to have, just because Phoenix lets you just mush anything off the board. But yeah, otherwise I think like you can afford the 2 slots to play something that actually lets you apply pressure. So we'd been looking at the breakdown of decks. Obviously, again, like I had said, the danger section is very misleading because while it says 420 players, which again is 20% of the field, played danger, it's unclear, is it danger Orkest, is it danger Thunder Dragon, is it like pure danger? I mean, some people...
can only assume that it will be a mixture of the two. Like there will be that, and that's the issue. Like there are some formats where you see that kind of discrepancy on the entry form, and you're like, oh, loads of decks have been entered as danger, but there's only one deck that plays dangers, so you know that that's what the deck reg team were making the mistake of writing down as being danger. But in this case, like we don't know what those danger decks are, so it's kind of difficult to say what the breakdown was. The safest assumption, I think, is probably to say that the split of Thunder and Orkest on decks that are recorded as Thunder and Orkest roughly represents the split that will be within the danger pile. And so I'd attribute them in the same ratio to each. But I think they were fairly even on the deck breakdown. Do you have it to hand?
So Orkest was 240 as just Orkest decks, and Thunder Dragon was 64 as just Thunder Dragon decks.
Okay,
but I think
that's really, really shifted one way. I thought it was closer than that.
I think people are more likely to write Danger Thunder Dragon than they are to write Danger Orkest.
Yeah, that's
so.
fair.
I feel like while it's written that way, I think the breakdown is most likely 20% Salad, like 17 or 18% Orkest. Maybe higher than that. It could have been that Orkest was the most represented deck, and then Thunder Dragon, and then Striker. And then after that, you get to...
I'd be surprised if Orkest was the most represented.
I think it's very popular. Like, you have 420 players who reported as Danger, and then you have 240 players who reported as Orkest. So even if half of those are playing Orkest, then there are more Orkest players than Salamangreat players.
Wow.
And I don't really understand why Orkest is more represented.
No, neither do I.
Like, because it is a strong deck, but it also has the issue that Lancia is a card, as we've seen. And it's the most popular side deck card, so...
Yeah, like,
considering how accessible...
Lancia is the most common hand trap. Like, if you're playing Orkest, there will be more Lancias dropped on you post-side than any other hand trap on average.
Yeah.
Which is a scary statistic.
Yamaroshi is saying in 9 rounds they played against 5 Orkest mirrors. So,
that is quite a large amount of Orkest.
That's a lot of Orkest. Like, obviously Orkest is a very strong deck, and I guess it's also a very enjoyable deck to play, right? Like, but it does surprise me in a format where we have such a good structure deck, that you know, we have such a good structure deck that a more expensive deck is seeing more play than it. JY points out that it might just be that Orkest is easier to play. And I think there is like a lot of depth to Salamangreat if you're playing games that end up going multiple turns. Like, the turn 1 of Salamangreat is much less complicated than the turn 1 of Orkest in general. But Salamangreat, if the game goes as long as Salamangreat wants, then it has a lot more stuff going on.
Yeah, JY does quite sensibly point out that Salad does require a lot of technical play, which, yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah. And Marcello is now pointing out that Phantasme is super expensive. And that is very true. And I do believe if I were to be playing Salamangreat that I would be wanting to play it due to how well it interacts with the hand traps in the deck.
Yeah, and that's the only deck right now that's playing a sort of high enough threshold number of hand traps to want main deck Phantasme.
Yeah.
It seems such a strange card to be playing in anything that's only sort of playing 3 real hand traps to draw off it, but Salad doesn't have that issue.
Yeah, which is interesting. Like, Salamangreat, I think the difference between Salamangreat with and without Phantasme is really large. Just because, like, if you have the Phantasme plus, like, a Veiler already, then you can just, like, put back whatever hand traps you draw if you know, like, against Orkest, for example. If you know that you're just shutting down their combo with the one hand trap, then you can just make sure the rest of the cards in your hand are live cards. And that's really strong. Being able to turn a hand of just hand traps into a hand that had exactly the right number of hand traps plus a circle or a gazelle is quite massive. But yeah, so Orkest and Salamangreat are obviously the decks that people need to be preparing to play against. Sky Striker, I feel, is increasing in popularity with every week because it had been very underrepresented at a lot of the nationals, in Europe anyway. It always had good conversion into Top Cut.
I don't see what the attraction is going into this weekend to play Orkest.
I mean, again, I think it's a case that Orkest is a deck that a lot of people like, and I think that is one of the main attractions to it. Like, there is a certain amount of choice that is going to be people already have picked up the deck because it won the most recent European YCS.
But that's irrelevant to the format now. And
For
if
sure.
you look at the results of this format, like Orkest has kind of fallen off a cliff since then.
Yeah. Marcello is pointing out that all 6 of the world competitors from US used Striker and Thunder.
Yeah.
And that's super relevant. And that's the thing. It's like Striker and Thunder are so polarized in the format. You know, like when Striker was de facto best deck in the format, everybody's able to play things like Order. And if Thunder is in the position where it's de facto best deck in the format, there were more ways to interact with it. But I feel like because the two of them exist, we've seen that kind of, we've spoken about this in previous episodes where like people will like swing to deal with one or swing to deal with the other, and everybody's just kind of settling in the middle, which is where you start getting like nice sides for Orkest and Salamangreat, and you kind of miss the fringe decks, which just happen to be like super powerful if they get to do their stuff.
Yeah, I don't know where that really leaves the format at this point, but like I've thought a lot about hand traps and how weird numbers of hand traps have been showing up in lists. Like I think maybe the fall in the representation of Salamangreat and the hand traps that brings to the meta has really opened up the opportunity for Thunder in America.
Yeah. It's being brought up here that Orkest has a better going second. and that's a reason for playing it. And I think the problem is that like so many of the decks, if they go first, they're just ending the game. Like that's why Striker and Thunder Dragon are super successful, because if you win the dice roll and you go first, you should be securing game one against the Orkests and the Salamangreats in the format.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you had a going second, which was just like, like if the Mech Knight deck from UK Nats could always do that going second into 4 negates that we saw
Yeah.
on stream, then we would have a deck which would like shift the format a lot.
I would really, really love the Mech Knight deck right now. And to be honest, I think it can reliably do what it showed you on stream in game one. But the format just lines up so terribly with everyone being dead set on Lanciers.
Yeah.
Like it's such an awful time to want to be an Orkest player.
Yeah. And Orkest does have a lot of flexibility, which people are pointing out in the chat. You get to play things like Light Stage and such. But
Yeah.
again, like cards like that just don't do anything against Thunder Dragon. So it's like you have the case where you have cards that are like very good against subsets of the format, but you end up in an awkward position where if you open a hand and you're against the wrong subset of the format, it doesn't do anything going second.
Yeah, and I think with Thunder gaining popularity, it puts the whole meta in a really weird place because previously it had just been correct to main deck like back row removal so you don't lose to things like Mystic Mine. But now you have to really think about whether you want to main deck cards that are going to help do absolutely nothing into a Thunder Dragon deck. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't a consideration previously deck building for Euros for me. I was like, Thunder Dragon is an anomaly. You might play against it, but it's not correct to deck build for it because you're probably only going to play against one. And now I'm looking at it really differently of like, oh, that's something that I need to properly consider and not neglect in how I'm building my deck.
Yeah, when it was like less represented, like because I don't think Thunder Dragon has become any better this format. It's just a case of it's becoming more represented, and when it's only like 3 to 5% of the format, you can kind of get away with the whole just saying, "Hey, look, if I play against it one round, whatever." And the annoying thing is that the best interaction with the Thunder Dragon deck is something like Sphere Mode, which doesn't
Does
match into like
nothing everywhere
Striker.
else.
Like it only matches well into the other decks if they overextend. Like if
Yeah.
Salamangreat opens really well and you Sphere Mode them, like
I mean that and
you've done
Pendulum.
something, I guess, but it's not even that good. Because sphere moding a fully built Salamangreat board, I mean, it clears their Dweller and it turns off their counter trap. But like, jamming waves can do the same thing. Yeah, Marcello, that's the point that we're making, is that Thunder Dragon, like, it reminds me a lot of Goki going into Euros last year, where yes, there were ways to interact with it, but like what Goki was doing in that format with Gumblar made it super uninteractive, and because of the way, like the axes on which Thunder Dragon interacts with the format, it's really hard to interact with it still. Like you have some really interesting fair decks where you have like the Orkests and the Salamangreats, and then you have the slightly less fair deck but still very kind of tempo oriented, I guess, in Striker, where you're just playing that kind of short
I
back and
feel
forth.
like Striker is still really fair in that regard. Like the fact that it's a deck that is looking at playing Floodgates means that it's not doing unfair things by itself. It's having to like hard draw unfair cards to be able to be unfair itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like in a format where Striker can just go second, like the 37 spells 3 monsters deck is not terribly fair. Like when you go second against Orkest or Salamangreat in the format, you just blow everything up.
Yeah, but I don't think that's unfair. I think that's good, but it's really, really fair.
Sure.
I guess that might just be a difference in nomenclature.
I think that's reasonable, but I think Striker has more ability to just like randomly like run away with itself than Orkest or Salamangreat do. Like
Yeah, sure.
it is easier to be rewarded by randomness as a Striker player than as an Orkest player, especially with Orkest moving away from dangers. Okay, so what Marcello is saying is that the solitairing of Thunder Dragons is more difficult. Like,
I
it's
think that's
obviously a
completely
more
fair.
difficult combo to do because you are often just playing out the entire hand. Um, it's very close to being a kind of bigger version of the Burning Abyss deck that we had before Snow was lost in
Yeah,
terms of it's playing
that's
all the
that's one of the
extenders.
most attractive parts of it.
Yep. Um,
Like at the time, playing Burning Abyss, when Thunder Dragon was just picking up on, yeah, we should all be playing Snow. I was looking at the deck thinking, if I didn't really enjoy the story of me being the guy that plays Burning Abyss, that is the deck I would be playing right now.
yeah.
Because, yeah, it looks great fun as a deck that I think I could play week in, week out.
hmm It also has lots of shiny cards, which is always nice.
Big bonus.
Big bonus. Um, yeah, people are pointing out the Crusadia stuff lets Thunder play better through Lancia, and that's the thing is like Lancia doesn't stop Thunder in the same way that Lancia stops
It's not even
Orcust.
comparable.
I mean, the thing is, against most of the decks that are bringing Lancia in, worst case scenario, you just end on like Colossus, and they have to burn like 2 to 3 resources just to clear that. And like Colossus is such a swingy card because you can end on a Colossus, and often that just automatically ends the game.
It's so dumb.
Like, whereas like Orcus can end on Galatea counter trap maybe, but it can't even search with the Galatea if it's being hit by a Lancia. Um, so having monsters that not only are part of your
Orcust can't
combo.
even end on Galatea counter trap because they can't banish a machine to use Galatea
Yeah,
effect.
yeah, that's the thing. Like you have to have hard drawn to counter trap. But it's the fact that like Thunder Dragon is the only deck that has monsters that actually do stuff during the opponent's turn at the moment. Um,
And they have like some solitaire turn one boards that are unbeatable. Like, what's it's really awful. You're like, why do you not play Thunder Dragon in this format? I don't
I
know the
think
answer to that question.
like again, it has a high skill ceiling. A lot of people just haven't picked up the cards. And again, I guess like it's just not receiving the same coverage. Like the problem is that Yu-Gi-Oh often builds echo chambers, and so once a deck does something and becomes popular, it will artificially inflate its popularity further than stats actually boost it. So, like if you look at how YouTube analytics for Yu-Gi-Oh work, your videos will perform better if they are of old decks than if they are of new decks. So like Burning Abyss is a more searched term than Thunder Dragon is, as far as I know.
I mean, I can understand that. Like, I
Like,
would.
but so players become very fond of decks,
Yeah.
and so if people, because at the start of the format, Thunder Dragon was not seen as a real deck, and basically since the ban of Snow, Thunder Dragon fell off very quickly, and it hadn't been winning YCSs and stuff. So there's a lot of like external factors which are not kind of they're not based on any actual valuable stats, because the difference between winning a YCS and coming second at a YCS is negligible. Like,
Unless you're the community.
unless you're the community, because often that can be a case of coming down to the pilots as opposed to the decks at that point in the day, as we often see. Stuff starts to get a little bit ropey and a little bit silly going into the last few rounds of long events. So yeah, I Thunder Dragon is really strong. I think it's a deck that everybody should be familiar with going into the event. Particularly as most people are already going to be familiar with Salamangreat and Striker and Orkest, because again, they just get more coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's being pointed out in the chat if everybody starts like maining trolls and sphere modes and all those sort of like hard counters. But even then, if you don't open those, then you just have like bad draws later on in the game, and you probably aren't breaking the board in the first place. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, there aren't like a lot of natural answers to Thunder Dragon other than Salamangreat.
Mm-hmm. Or Super Poly. Super Poly, real good.
Yeah, that's true.
That card's so dumb. Do you ever look at a card and say, like, how is this designed?
Was this designed?
Why? Why does Jaden have to destroy everything I love? Yeah, like Super Polymerization, I think, is probably the most generic card to play if you're afraid of Thunder Dragon. If you can afford the space to play it.
Yeah, but there aren't a huge number of decks that can.
Yeah. And that is the problem. It's like, potentially, maybe it's just like go second striker with the Utopia package, and then you get to rid of the rest of your generics just to have Super Poly targets. Super Poly is really good.
So what? You're suggesting that you play a Sky Striker deck with 8 Sky Striker links?
Yeah, something like that.
And then 3 Utopia cards.
2 Utopias. One,
Okay,
well,
yes,
one main deck.
just 2. And then you've got 5 slots. You can have 3 Super Poly targets. A Boral. No, you don't even need Boral Sword.
No, you just have Phoenix Unicorn.
Phoenix.
Or like Phoenix Ningirsu.
And Bomber.
Do you even need Bomber? Like, so we play Mud Dragon because it's like super easy to make, and you can always make it against like Pendulum and the other combo decks, and it also helps you go into Utopia. And then you play Starving Venom, and you play Violet Chimera. That seems good. I think we've solved the format. You're welcome, everybody.
Yu-Gi-Oh's over. Everyone can go home.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a weird point. Like, the decks that can play Super Poly at the moment, I don't think they're well enough positioned. Like, Subterror is really cute because if you have Floodgate plus Counter Trap, then you can actually play going second into the decks like Thunder Dragon.
I don't think Subterror is like even a deck that needs to be looked at simply because it has such low representation. And whilst I haven't properly evaluated the reasons behind that, I've sort of just accepted that the community doesn't get things so wrong that a good deck has that low representation.
I think if Subterror were more represented, it would top. Subterror suffers from the Draco problem.
Of not being
And
very
the
good.
Altergeist problem. No, it's in that when it is good, it's like bonkers amazing. Because you like floodgate your opponent, you counter trap their negate, you like wipe their entire board, and then you're just generating infinite advantage every turn.
I guess
And you have like 4K beaters.
Something like Subterror is weirdly well positioned to be a great choice for Euros, given that the relative frequency of twin twisters in main decks has just gone through the floor.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the Thunder Dragon problem, right? Like, the more Thunder Dragon we have, the more we move away from twisters, and then Striker becomes better. Like, oh, it's so frustrating.
Welcome to circular formats.
Yeah, it's such a like swiggy circular format though. But I think the like core Subterra problem is one, Twin Twisters is like super killer. But additionally, if Twin Twisters starts falling out, then I think you just play Mine no win con deck, where you just like keep shuffling back in your mines. Because the way that the mine burn deck loses is if it draws its mines when it has metaverses. So you just play Avarice to shuffle back in the mines after you draw them, so that your metaverses are always live.
Dan, stop.
Like, if you resolve mine 8 times in one game, there's no way for them to win. It's just game. Even if they're playing 60 cards, if you're playing triple Avarice, you'll never deck out. Don't play triple Avarice. One Avarice is enough, but not that I've been.
If you want to be safe, play one Avarice and one Transmigration Prophecy.
You could do that. That is an option. Or you could play Mask of Darkness instead. Works really well with mine. Okay. I'll bring us back
1d69.
to...
Someone stop him. Yes.
I've become too powerful. Pikachu has taught me how to draw 7 cards.
This is what
every
happens
turn.
when you cast event instead of actually playing Yu-Gi-Oh! This is what happens when you do casting instead of playing.
I have played a premiere event this month.
You end up playing Burning Abyss for 6 months straight if you start casting premiere events.
It's true. Watch out. Marcello will be next.
I really want to see what craziness Marcello falls into, but I'm worried that he's far too sensible to end up flying off the rails because of casting.
I mean, he played Pendulum that one time.
Pendulum's fine. What's wrong with Pendulum?
It's Pendulum. Like, I feel like once people start playing Pendulum, they don't stop playing Pendulum. You know, it's... Anyway, point is, let's look at the top 64 deck breakdown. Because we see one Subterror.
That's a good decision.
We have one Subterror player, so I am validated in saying Subterror is the best deck in the format. You know, it was 2% of the format, or 2% of the overall decks. And with one of it in top 64, that is a growth in how much it's represented. So, checkmate.
Checkmate atheists.
Checkmate Monarch players. Yeah, so we have like one of the non-ND-pendies, and then we have an ND-pendy. Pendulum, if it does good, it does good. One Mystic Mind Burn somehow. Like, I'm not convinced you need to play any burn cards in Mystic Mind Burn. Like, why play burn cards when instead of those 3 slots, you could just play cards that let you recycle your mines?
I guess.
Look, think about it. In those 3 slots, you can play one Avarice, one Transmigration, and then you can play the card which lets your opponent draw cards and you gain 2,000 life points for each, because that way you deck them out faster and
I
you
don't
win
think
the
that
burn
you
mirror.
need to do anything silly like that. I think you just play those two and have another card that can help you with your strategy. Don't try and diversify your main deck for fringe matchups.
Or even like you could play like Jackpot 7 or something. Like something that is a
Oh.
better win condition than burn.
Oh,
No, because they twin
Jackpot
twister
7 is
you
no
and you're
win,
like, hee hee hee, Jackpot 7.
but you need to banish 3 with its own effect to win the game.
Yeah, so every time they twin twister your mind, they hit you Jackpot 7.
Dan, stop.
I am a powerful duelist.
This is not okay.
Do you know what's really
The
not
next
okay?
episode of TKB will be an intervention.
Yeah, I might be a little jet lagged.
A little crazy.
Whoops. America is a magical place. So we had 13 Sky Striker, 14 Salamangreat, 15 Danger Thunder, 10 of which were Crusadia, and 18 PK Orkest. Oh yeah, they also had Phantom Knights as a separate deck, which, like, I do not believe that there were 49 people playing pure Phantom Knights.
You don't believe much, it seems.
Like, go win a YCS with your pure Phantom Knight deck, Tom, which is playing like 5 Phantom Knights.
I won a YCS with... I won 2
You've won
YCSs.
2 YCSs with Phantom Knights.
The same Phantom Knights both times, because I never trade my cards away.
I think you had... Did you have Secret Boots for Dusseldorf?
No.
Okay.
I had Ultra Cloak and Super Boots because they're the same ones.
Fair.
I think I own some secrets. They're in a drawer because they are not nearly as experienced.
Yes.
They don't have
experience
the
is very important,
credentials of my original print Phantom Knights.
Yes, look, here, this is what I'm looking for. Somebody in chat is after saying Destiny board Mystic Mine. So much better. So much better. Like, not only do you beat them, but you just destroy their spirit. Like, that duelist is never
Literally
gonna
take
play
their
again.
soul.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, they're just dead. Except it's final because death is a bit too edgy. But considering it's removing a TH from the game, I don't mind too much. I can pronounce final properly. This is important. Interestingly, there was a dinosaur, a zombie, and only 4 of the Orkest played Dangers. I think we're like at a pretty general consensus that Dangers are like not great in Orkest at this point. We had this discussion.
How like good Dangers are as cards.
I mean, they're really good when you have Summon Sorceress in the game. Like,
why specifically Summon Sorceress?
Because they make Summon Sorceress really easy.
Well, just because when we had Summon Sorceress, more bodies, more better.
Yeah. And also, like, they're all the same attribute, and they're all just, like, random types that you don't normally play in your deck. Like,
Are you
how
talking
often...
Summon Sorceress needs everything to be the same type. Curious needs everything different.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely played this game before. What are you talking about?
Summon Sorceress is just 3 monsters because you play Reproducus.
Yes, dinosaur noises. Yeah, I mean, so, like, this is the thing, because I believe that it's safe to assume that Orkest was really the most represented deck at NAWCQ. And it obviously then just had the biggest transition to top 64, but it doesn't mean that it's the best deck, because we see that there's just so much of it. Like, they're easily, based off the numbers that have been provided from the event, there can be anywhere. I am going to assume that the that the Phantom Knight decks are all just Orkest decks because it does not make sense otherwise. Like, I have not seen anybody saying, hey, look, I have this sick Phantom Knight combo. And I love Phantom Knights. They're a cool archetype, but it's just not happening right now. So, just with that, there's at least just under 300 decks. And then some amount of the 420 danger decks are also Orkest. So, I mean, if there were only 300 decks, and they transitioned to the majority for top 64, and that's quite impressive. But otherwise, otherwise it's just a case of most represented deck had the best transition. The like numbers difference between Salamangreat, Thunder Dragon, and Sky Striker is like completely negligible. Like, they all were roughly similarly represented. Salamangreat had slightly more representation, but again, we can assume that an amount of those didn't have full builds with like Phantasmades or like Impermanences or some of the higher end stuff. You can still definitely top without the expensive stuff, but it's more difficult to top because Phantasme interacts with the statistics of your opening hands.
It's also really important to remember that not everyone that enters this event has a chance of topping. Like, as sad as that may be, like, most of the people going to an event aren't going to top that event. Like, you could run it 100 times and there would be like 50% of the people who top 0. Like, and those people who would top 0 out of 100 runbacks of the event aren't on an even distribution of decks or on the same distribution of decks that you see in an entry deck breakdown. Like, a lot of the time the deck that they're on is the reason why they top 0 out of 100 simulations of the event. But even the people who are playing real decks aren't necessarily all in contention to win the event, and they will be more likely on the easier to play or the cheaper of the like meta decks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's even a lot of people that go to large events with like fully built decks, and like particularly in Utrecht, there are a lot of people that go to that event and they are not going to be playing to win. I've seen plenty of players with very real decks who play to scrub day 1 so that they can enjoy the waters day 2.
Yeah, like, certainly European events are just fun places to be. I can't speak much for outside of that, having never traveled beyond these
the
these
4
reaches,
walls.
but
Just...
yeah.
So I guess the top 16 breakdown is a bit more interesting for US Nats because we just got rid of all of the fun decks and we only have Thunder Dragon, Solid, Striker, and Orkest left.
Bye-bye, fun.
Subterrors were robbed, guys. I
Dan,
need to
stop.
set that up so I can do the like extreme camera zoom in whenever I'm looking at the camera, but now is not the time for that, I guess. It's important. People care about the production value, right, audience? That's why you join us with our super makeshift setup and my lovely yellow wall. It's a very yellow wall. I don't know who looks at a wall and says, yellow is what I want to make the feature color on my wall. You know? Anyway.
Welcome to Dan's home decor.
Hey, look, color theory is very important. Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I don't feel that the changes to decks that we've seen from NAWCQ are incredibly large. Like, the format has not been shaken up.
Yeah.
We weren't expecting it to be shaken up because it's quite a developed format. And again, we are just kind of flip-flopping in our little circle of misery, which is Twin Twisters. impermanence, twin twisters, metaverse, or whatever other dance you want to be doing. But yeah, I don't know what deck I would play if I were going into this event. I know with like German nationals, I was very set on if I had had the time playing Salamangreat because at the time I thought it was really strong. But when you have lots of Thunder Dragons flying about, they go nom 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 on the little Cyberse guys, and you're like, no, my little cute spinny guy. And Foxy doesn't do anything, and Foxy is like the only reason I'd play Salamangreat. Because Foxy is bonkers. Like, recurable MST is always just, like, so good.
Yeah. But again, Foxy, like, not doing anything against Thunder Dragon.
Yes, exactly. Unless you set rotation, give them a field spell, but then it's set, so
and
you still
they
can't
flip
Foxy.
it.
Yeah, exactly. You see, we give them a field trap, and then we bait doll it. That's how it works.
Huh.
Anyway, something that I would
Field
like
traps
to
is a mechanic I would love to see.
I mean, it would be cute. Like, because Metaverse effectively gives us that. Like, would Mystic Mine be more fair as a trap card and not search?
No, definitely not.
No, but
Mine would be less fair as a trap card.
or
Actually, no, it gains and it loses.
yeah.
At the moment, you can't. It would be stronger for the decks that are playing no monsters if it was a trap card, but it would be weaker as like a going second piece, I guess.
Yeah, like it would be a very different card, but I think
Yeah.
Metaverse is almost scarier than mine. And from the list that I have seen from the weekend, again, I'm sorry guys, I have not put in as much research as I would have liked this weekend because I'm just a disappointment, really. But from the list, wow, I went out of my way to make you these lovely purple shirts, and this is how you repay me. A dagger through my heart. Metaverse, like a lot of the striker lists were back on mine and back on metaverses, which is something that I thought we had moved away from. Like going into Irish Nationals weekend, I was like super on play one mine mained so you can grab it with terraforming, but don't commit to more than that. But I think like with Thunder Dragon about you have to be on multiple mine and you have to be on the metaverses. And you just need to have enough imperms and anchors that you can just resolve the metaverse during the Thunder Dragon player's turn. Because they only have so much interaction with your spell and trap cards, right? And then you just hope that they don't have Twin Twisters or that they've already resolved Second Light.
Yeah. I think like the trap tricks getting more popular means that you can not have to invest so heavily in straight up copies of Mystic Mine and Metaverse because you can find it when you need it, and having that level of flexibility is always a bonus.
Yeah, but I mean, if people are playing impermanences, then you much prefer to have your mind coming down when you can use your impermanence. So you kind of want to.
I don't follow. I need an explanation. I'm probably just being slow, but
so like, if we assume that Thunder Dragon has 2 to 3 points of interaction for spell and trap cards, right?
Yeah, sure.
Then if we have an opening hand which is way into mine plus like imperm anchor, the imperm and the anchor let us clear those.
Yeah.
But if our way into mine is something like terraforming, then we're just super dead anyway. So ripperoni and pepperoni. And if it is just a mine itself and we activate the mine, then we just lose because the imperm can't come down. So the metaverse so if the
Why
access to
can't
mine,
the
because you activate mine and then they go negate and you're like, oh, I can't activate imperm from my hand.
what do they negate it with?
The mine Harbinger.
Okay, yeah, that one is actually a problem. But
Harbinger is
like,
a good card.
yeah, if you had like Anchor Imperm, you
Yeah, you
anchor the
can just use
Harbinger.
it immediately. Yeah.
You anchor the Harbinger, and if it goes through, then you just play the mine and pass.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe mine is just easier to get down. But in that case, like if Thunder Dragon is just super represented and you can always guarantee it coming down in Striker, then you might as well just play Metaverses. Like because I think with any like halfway decent hands, Striker just like decimates Solid and Orkest. Like if you're playing the matchup well, like if you can get to a point that you're resolving engage for +1 against either of those decks, then you're winning.
Yeah.
Like you just start just tearing everything apart, and they're just sitting there crying as you're getting like multiple +1s in a turn. Yeah. It's pointed out, can't you use the imperm mine, which you can, but like you need to have 2 points of interaction, and
Yeah,
ideally you would also like to resolve something on the Colossus so that you can actually search after resolving the mine.
no. You just resolve the mine and go next turn.
Sure.
Like in game 1 against Thunder Dragon, if you've resolved mine, you're not on a clock. Like,
I mean,
take all the time you need.
are all of the Thunder builds from US on Second Light?
Yeah, the ones that I've seen have all been Second Thunder. So like,
Okay.
if you stick a mine, you've won.
Yeah. So it is literally just BA, and this is like the problem with BA in the format is that the Thunder cards just do more stuff than the BA cards at the moment.
The problem with BA.
But I mean, I think legitimately in the points of this format where mine is less represented, BA is like a fine deck to be playing. But like you're playing Dangers in BA, your payoff for playing BA is Beatrice, and Beatrice is only as good as whatever card she's sending for you, and you just don't have a valuable enough card to send. Whereas the payoff in Thunder Dragons is you get this 2600 mistake, which is printed in Ultimate Rare, so it's like, it's a win-win.
Twice as powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if Beatrice were in Ultimate Rare, then she would have more sway. I think that's how card rarity works. Maybe I'm just not playing enough, but
higher rarity cards are better. Like,
yeah, I don't think there's really much else to take away from North American WCQ. Like, it is just kind of reaffirming that it's cool in that it shows that the points playoff players are clearly just very skillful players. But it also just shows that like the format is a very slow one to progress. Like, I think last year's Euros we had the rush to get Gillosauruses and such.
I wonder what we're going to have this time.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to have anything like that.
Of course, Dan.
This is like... I don't know if we're going to have anything like that which will actually have legitimate impact on the event.
Okay, yeah, I might give you that one, but we'll definitely have something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there will be a thing.
Yeah. Could Ojama ABC top Euros? I sure hope it could. Tom, you gotta believe in them.
now is not the time to be playing a deck that loses to Lancia.
I mean, like, the thing with ABC Ojama is after you resolve your thing, which summons all the Ojamas, you ask your opponent which is your favorite Ojama, and they just kind of freeze up because choice paralysis kicks in, and you win the game from there. Wait, no, they don't even summon a bunch of Ojamas, do they? They do, right? They have the spell which lets you summon a bunch of Ojamas. Or is it that it summons the ABC pieces? I forget. It's a cute deck. I don't. Yeah. Like you said, Lancia is a card, I guess. And Mystic Mine is a card. And Thunder Dragons is a deck. And Widow Anchor is a card. And Shark
Dan, we're
Cavern is a
rambling. I
card.
think we should take questions.
Yeah, questions sound good. If people have questions, feel free to ask them. There was somebody who had brought up there were game losses issued on the stream. I didn't get to catch the stream because I was working.
So there was game loss handed out in the feature for what was it?
I heard about the graveyard checking one.
Yeah, the
but I've
playoff
not watched it, so I can't confirm. But I think like if a judge is ever giving a warning for slow playing, that it's definitely slow play because that is one of the warnings where it is never given incorrectly. I've never seen somebody get a slow play warning when it wasn't a slow play. Because judges generally are more lenient.
It was
than less
slow
lenient.
play, but I don't think that the moment that it was given out was slow play. Like both players had been slow playing for that game, and the person who ended up getting a slow play warning had been slow playing more. But the time at which it was actually given out was so weird. I really hate it when there's a table judge and they wait until the player says something to give a slow play warning. Like I from what I understand, it was as he declared battle phase. It's like if you want to give out a slow play warning, give it out in the dead space before the player does something. Like the player taking their next action shouldn't be a trigger for giving out any sort of slow play warning. It should be the player has gone too long without doing something.
So in the early game, there's an argument for waiting to see the player actually playing out their lines after they've spent time not doing anything. Because like if somebody has an opening hand of 5 combo pieces, I don't think it's slow play for them to look at it for like 30 seconds before going into their combo, as long as they progress their combo at a reasonable pace after that. Like, it is understood that you do need to actually think about what you're doing. But if you're looking at graveyards, it generally suggests you're at like the more mature stages of the game. So you're probably only looking at 3 live cards at most. At which point, yeah, I think you can probably just step in. But again, it's a penalty which judges are not trained for well, and so I definitely could not blame a judge for having difficulty stepping in at a correct time because
Like I might be completely mistaken in how I think it should be handled. It just seems weird to see. Like it always seems that the penalties get awarded as the player makes their next play, not when a judge determines that it has been too long since the last one.
Yeah. Again, slow play is a super awkward one.
Like you've judged a lot more events than I have, given that I haven't judged an event.
Sure.
What would you think in that situation if you're at a table and a player isn't making a play? When
I
you step in to say, well,
I think the policy needs to be better clarified on this because And this is probably a bit too extreme, but if you check the Pokemon tournament rules, they have set times for how long you're allowed to spend thinking on things.
That's pretty sensible.
It means that a table judge can come over, start their stopwatch, and once you break the elapsed time, slow play.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem, is that like the judges are not trained to handle slow play, and it's such an awkward and uncommon infraction. And I don't think it's an uncommon issue, but it's an uncommon infraction to actually hand out. That it means that it's very difficult for them to do so in a consistent manner.
I think that that's a massive failing of the system when you've just published a set of rules that incentivizes slow play so hard.
I think we'll be doing our policy breakdown next week, probably. But yes, there is a lot to be discussed about the tournament policy. And I definitely will be bringing examples for when we do our full tournament policy discussion from the other large games to see what works and doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree it's an issue that judges are not properly equipped to deal with some of the common issues at tournaments. And that's a disservice to the players, which is a pity, because everybody should have the fairest possible tournament experience. Going across to questions from the audience, Dark Crusader has a question of, is Gnome just better than Lancia going second right now?
Going second, yes.
Yeah.
But like, you've answered your own question in the evaluation of that card. Is it better going second? Absolutely. Does that mean that it's better as a card? Maybe.
Yeah. Zoya.
If you're playing a deck where you're only going to be siding in hand traps when you go second, it's a better card.
Yeah, for sure. Zoya's asking, what do you think of pure Sky Striker in Euros as a choice? I think we've already established like strikers in the top decks. Really good. I think you have to play Mystic Mine because there's so much Thunder Dragon out there. But like, an amount of Sky Striker is going to top the event. I would be very surprised if there were not a Sky Striker deck in the top 8 of the event.
Yeah. I would be probably surprised if there aren't multiple Sky Strikers in the top 8 of the event.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not expecting it to be more than like 2 or 3, but I definitely would be. I think it is underrepresented if there is only one in top 8.
Yeah. Nick T asks, is Bard ban-worthy? If this is about the League of Legends champion, I don't think so. If it's about Rusty Bardiche, I don't think Bardiche is as big of a problem as it used to be. It still generates a lot of card advantage. It is a card that is on my like constantly suspect list, but I'm not convinced that without the rank of Magic, it's as big of an issue as it was. Do you have any thoughts on Rusty?
I don't think that what's its name? Mermaid is going to get banned because it's a selling point for mega packs. I think that something will get hurt on the Orkest deck going into a new format, and that like probably the sensible choice.
That's reasonable.
It depends how much they want to change the format. Like, I don't think that we're actually desperately in need of any big shift up on the list, because I think that the game's really cool right now.
Yep.
But if the people that matter want to change it up, then if you're hitting every deck, Bardiche is a very sensible way of hitting Orkest.
Yeah, I think they've been like, I've been quite happy with the lists as of late, for the most part. Like, I like the fact that we've just been slowly progressing and we see things like Draco and like a lot of old favorites being like viable or you know, solid tier 2 decks. So I don't see any massive need to just like decimate the format at the moment. I definitely would like to see a few hits to the wombo combo decks, but I say that as somebody who doesn't terribly enjoy playing wombo combo decks.
Yeah, I think that a slight reduction in the ability to go first and prevent your opponent from playing would be nice. But aside from that, nah, go nuts. It's fine.
Damage asks, do you have more deck profiles from Irish UK nationals to upload? We do have more profiles. I won't have time to upload them before Euros. And honestly, if we're going to be uploading content before Euros, I'll want to be just more specific. So I don't know if we're going to have anything between now and then, though, because I think most of us are traveling Thursday. So that gives us tomorrow to do a lot of testing. But if I have stuff left over, I'll release things as kind of bloopers after Euros. Michael Broadbent asks, will there be a check to grave counter at Euros? I would love if we could, but I'm not convinced that is something.
Can
we
you get a
can
little
away
like
with.
Call of Duty hit marker every time? So it's like each time somebody. I'd appreciate that if possible.
I'll look into it.
Sweet, thanks.
The Mandy69 has a good question, slightly less memey, which is better to focus on your deck's weaker matchups or cover a wider spectrum of decks?
Neither. Focus on the most common matchups.
Yeah. Like, there's no point having silver bullets for, like, decks that aren't being represented if you don't have stuff that gives you good matchup against Thunder, Salage, and, like, Orkest Striker. Like, I think realistically, unless you have, like, a naturally good matchup against each of those, you need to have a certain amount of side deck cards for each of those matchups. Decks like Orkest and Salamangreat, you can perhaps get away with playing 2 copies instead of 3 copies because you have a bit more time to draw into them because they play a slightly longer game. But like against Thunder, you need to have at least 3. Ideally, you'd want to have like 5 or 6 copies to have like a very high chance of opening them.
Yep, I think that's completely fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't waste the top tier of the meta is so broad right now that you shouldn't waste time thinking about anything outside of those decks because you're probably not going to play. Like, if you take any one specific deck that isn't those 4, you probably won't play it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, on average, you will play some that aren't from that one, but you don't know which ones they're going to be, and it's not worth wasting your time on it.
Yeah. And sometimes you just prepare for the wrong matchup, or you just ignore a matchup and you get unlucky and just play against it a lot.
Yeah.
Like your last experience in Utrecht, where you were on Paleo, which was like quite well
My last
positioned.
experience in Utrecht was on BA.
Oh, sure. Your last Euros experience in Utrecht.
Yeah.
Where...
I played Paleo and I found my 3rd True Draco opponent in round 11 and it knocked me out.
That was a year of a lot of bubbles.
Yep.
There is a follow-up question is, if you set your deck up to go first, do you put cards into your side deck to go first or more to go second? Most of the decks that are going first in this format don't need cards to side going first. Like, if you're playing Thunder Dragon or Endy Bendy Wombo Combo, like, the deck is just so focused on going first that you don't. They're good questions, Joe. Yeah, people are talking more about the graveyard stuff. Again, it's a case that there needs to be further clarity in the policy documents as to how and when that sort of issue should be handled. Tom is 72. He's doing very well for his age. Thank you, Alec. Somebody was asking, so.
Yeah, thanks for clearing that one up, Alec. It's important to dismiss misinformation.
So, player is asking why Pendulum with ND is not seeing representation at the moment. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Because if you want a deck that goes first and makes an unbeatable board, play Thunder Dragon and you'll do better going second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically. Thunder Dragon has more cards that do stuff, and it's less synergistic. So it means you can burn through more resources and still have plays, even if they're low power plays. Whereas Pendulum, if you don't get to set up scales, then you do 0. Why didn't Orkest or Salad see as much success over Thunder's? Like, when Thunder goes first, it auto wins, whereas it can still play into a going second board, like we just said, because it just has those infinite extenders. Kind of like Goki. Again, Thunder is very close to being, like, it is our extender deck of the format, where it's just, all of my cards do something, and I just splurge them out in an efficient manner and hope that they do enough.
Yeah.
And that is always good going second, because you start with 6 cards and your opponent has started with 5 cards.
Yeah.
That's literally it. Will we have a sealed battle pack YCS again in the near future? No, we will not, because
No, we would need
current
to have a
plans.
new battle pack to have a sealed battle pack event.
We do need to organize a battle pack event for ourselves at some point soon, because we do have a German box knocking about that we're going to open, but I don't know when we're going to do that yet. I don't think we'll have time at Euros.
Unlikely. Given that we need to fit in time for European Cube Championships.
European Cube Championships is important, which I need to look into details for that. If we can get people in for it, we will, and otherwise we will try our best to stream it live from whichever hotel we're running it in.
It will most certainly be run at whatever the Judge Hotel is.
I mean, it could be run in there's like 3 different hotels for this one. So Commentary has a different hotel, and it's closer to the venue, I think. So
I don't know where I will be in that case.
You're in the Player Hotel.
Okay.
Which is neither the Judge Hotel nor the Commentary Hotel.
Good to know.
As far as I know. Anyway, hotel talk. Boring. Bring back the Destiny board. Thoughts on Pendy Orkest deck. Apparently that was the deck at NAWCQ. Did you get to look at that at all?
Yeah, it looked pointless and stupid.
Okay.
Lots
of wheel spinning.
You know what Pendulum doesn't need? More end board for when it resolves its combo.
Yep, that is reasonable. Yeah, so basically it is flashy. But we don't need flashy, we just need decks that win events.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked it emotionally. Sure. I will give you that.
Good deck for locals, bad deck for Euros. Yes, no?
Yeah. I mean, depends on what you think of as good, but yeah, I guess.
Sure. Is Bardiche the best link in the game? No. Like one of the Borals or Summon Sorceress. Probably take that, I think. Like, Bardiche is only as good as the cards that it can pull.
Forbidden link in the game is probably Saryuja.
That card's real good, yeah. There's a lot of links that are independently just very strong, whereas Bardiche requires, like, a lot of setup. It's a very strong card, but it does require a lot of commitment, whereas, like, Saryuja, you just say, oh, I can summon monsters, bam, Saryuja. Do striker need hits, and if so, in what ways? Like, you can just hit something like engage to 2 and like multi-roll to 2, or engage and anchor to 2. Just small hits make like massive differences to a deck like striker. Because every time you hit a card like engage, you're changing their the likelihood of seeing that card by quite a bit, and you change the likelihood of drawing engage off engage as well. So I think you can make the smaller hits to striker, and they actually have a much larger impact because of how often the deck is drawing and searching. Like, striker resolving 1 engage for +1 is like strong, but it's not them ending the game. Whereas if they resolve multiple engages for +1, they go a lot further. Like, if you only have 2 engages, it's a lot riskier to go multi-roll, set my engage, and then try to Shizuku. Because, like, with 3 engages, I'm quite happy to just set an engage to multi-roll and potentially lose it to, like, a Twisters or something.
Yeah. I think it depends how much the power level in the format gets changed. Like, Striker is a really fair deck right now, and like when you lose to Striker, most of the time, unless they opened multiple engages, you're like, yeah, I just got strikered. Like, they played through everything that I put up, and if your opponent plays through everything that you put up, then yeah, they've won the game. Congratulations, you did things better than I could this game. Yeah. The only games that feel bad against Striker is Floodgates, because Floodgates always feel bad, and multiple engages.
Yes, multiple engages is powerful, but yeah, so like reducing the likelihood of multiple engages seems like a good way to limit the deck without having to just like decimate. People are asking, are we going to be participating at any of the 3v3 YCSs? Because I think Las Vegas is a 3v3, and then there's the South American 3v3. There's rumors that London might be 3v3, which I think if you're going to run any European event as 3v3, London makes sense, because 3v3 appeals to casual players a lot, I think. You know,
like, if there is one in Europe, I will be playing it. If it's outside of Europe, it's unlikely.
Pretty much.
It takes a lot of time and money for us to get out to other events. And like, for me, the restriction is largely on like what time I can get off work. And I want to be able to play all of the European events, so I will prioritize those.
Yeah. Gotta get that ordeal of a traveler, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, gotta get the points from European events that count towards things in Europe.
Yeah. That is the point. I am going to quickly go through a few more questions, and then we're going to finish up, because I am literally just like...
You've been hanging on for a while.
Delusional. I got like 6 hours of sleep, but it's also like...
That's an hour more than you said an hour ago, which is really worrying.
I slept like 4 hours on the plane, and then I got home and I was going to nap, and then I just like woke up 2 hours later. So, quick fun questions. Bishroat asks, what would you give the player that run Destiny board Mystic Mind deck in Euros? If they go 3 wins in the first 3 rounds, we'll get them a feature for round 4. Guaranteed. Like, if somebody is doing well with Mystic Mind Destiny board deck, 100% can guarantee that I will feature them. Marcello sadly, might be crying beside me, but I will be...
That's completely impossible, so, you know...
Well, the challenge is out there, everyone. Or maybe Tom is protecting our secret text.
It's not doable. Don't
It is.
waste your one chance.
They don't conflict. That's true. If you want to win Euros, definitely don't play the deck.
They don't conflict.
Yeah.
Mystic Mine. So the issue isn't deck space. The issue is back row space.
Yeah, mine goes in your field spell, and Destiny board goes in your back row.
And what about all the other cards you need to play in any deck like that?
It's fine. You summon your card guard.
Ah!
You target your field spell. Your field spell's no protected.
Somebody stop
And
that.
then next turn you summon another
He's
card
out of
guard,
control.
and you protect your final. Thank you, everyone. I know that my genius is hard to understand, but you guys are keeping up very well. So, person asks, amount of twins being played goes down, Draco now sneaks in. I don't think Draco's good. Problem is it just loses to Striker, and Striker has become more represented, so even if Twin Twisters is less represented, the deck loses to Widow Anchor. And that's a problem. That's a big problem.
Draco also doesn't enjoy playing second into a Thunderboard. I hear that.
Yeah.
To be able to resolve things that such.
Well, also just Hieratic Speed there. Hieratic Seal matches well because they go like Grave Effect and you're like bounce your guy and then you don't have any like stuff and you cry.
I'm not sure that's the reason, but we'll accept that for today as your answer.
Sure. Seb does not understand your statement of best link, which is not banned, because he has just said that the best link is Firewall, but it's okay.
Okay. Thank you for that, Seb.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
That's why you're a valued member of the team.
Did we mention we have jerseys? Very excited. Very excited. Big fan.
Should we take one more question, Dan? And then you need to go to bed.
No, it's not my bedtime. Yeah, I need to sleep. Yeah, one last question. Does anybody have good questions? Alec is suggesting penguins, and that is true. If the penguin tribal player can win the first 2 rounds at Euros, guaranteed feature. Just
what happens if the penguin tribal player and the Mystic Mine final Destiny board player both win their first 2 rounds and are not paired against each other in round 3?
Well,
we need to establish
I will find my nice Atlantean seal that I have, make a sacrifice to the Divine Serpent Ga, and he'll sort my problems out.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
That's the plan. West Ham have a Yu-Gi-Oh team. West Ham's not a real place. I've not seen it. Thus it is not real. Beaky Vlogs has come in and has just said, have you compared Thunder Dragon to Goki? Yes, I have, lots of times, because it has all the extenders. Why do players like foreign cards? Are they cheaper, printed different? So American cards are printed on different cardstock to European cards because there is some legal stuff about, I think they have to print on recycled cardboard in America. So the cardstock is quite different, and also the inks used are very different. So the American blues are more towards purple, whereas ours are more towards kind of a royal blue. And then like the yellows are like very different as well. So there's like big differences there. Then for the European language cards, they're just cheaper. Like Germany just like is the biggest consumer of foreign language product in Europe as far as I know. So they just open so much that it keeps the market prices down. Whereas French language cards seem to be the most expensive according to card markets. So not sure on that.
I've heard a suggestion that is because most French language cards stay in France. Like,
yes,
they like to play their own French cards.
Yeah, I think German players might be more likely to be happy to play German or English cards, whereas I think French players definitely seem to have preferences towards French language.
I'm also of the understanding that particularly recently, the French market has had a huge upswing in slightly more casual players, and as casual players prefer to play in their native language if possible.
Yeah, for sure. To be fair, Konami France is doing a really good job at promoting the game in conjunction with other entities. One quick last thing is, for anybody who is going to Euros, not a bad idea to take a look at NAWCQ and just check out what the deck's win rates are at and see what the regular builds and what the played cards are. Looking at it very quickly, Solid Striker, Orkest, and Thunder Dragon are all within 2% of 60%. Shocking! But True Draco is also at 57%, so I'm not sure. Dinos is at only 46. But yeah, that's a good resource if you're wanting to get a feel for lists and what cards are performing well and what cards are not performing well. But it's also by no means the most reliable of resources. So take any data you want to take from it with a pinch of salt. Guys, thank you all very much for joining us. I'm going to go fall into a coma for maybe 8 or 9 hours. You've all been wonderful. We look forward to seeing you guys at the European Championship. Don't be shy to come up and say hello to us, assuming we're not playing a match or in the middle of doing something that looks important, because if it looks important, it's probably something that we can't be busy with, because I will be doing a certain amount of running back and forth. But otherwise, if we're not busy, if I'm not recording, feel free to come over. We will have Kuribrohs cards with us, which we will also have Sharpies for, so you can get signed field centers. And yeah, best of luck at the event. And this is Daniel and Thomas saying have a lovely evening, or afternoon, or morning, wherever you are.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for tuning in.